Stop scrolling. If you're a coin collector, dealer, or someone who loves hidden money, this is for you. Most people think nickels are only worth 5 cents. Big mistake. Some US Buffalo and Jefferson nickel coins are among the most valuable and rare coins in the world, selling for thousands to even millions of dollars at auctions. And the craziest part? Many of these coins were once in normal pocket change. Buffalo nickels, minted between 1913 and 1938, are legendary for their bold American design and ultra-rare dates like 1913 S-Type II, 1916 doubled die, and 1937 D three-legged buffalo, coins that collectors and dealers aggressively hunt today. One small detail can turn a simple nickel into a life-changing treasure. Jefferson nickels might look common, but don't be fooled. Rare varieties like the 1942-1945 Silver War nickels, 1939 doubled Monticello, and 1950 low mintage coins are exploding in demand worldwide. Serious coin dealers pay premium prices for high-grade examples. There is a moment in American coin history when metal was not just currency, but a living portrait of a nation searching for its identity. And if you hold the 1920 Buffalo nickel, you are holding more than a coin. You are holding a story carved out of the rugged American frontier, shaped by an artist who wanted to capture the true spirit of a people, and minted during a time when the United States was rising from the impact of war into a new era of hope, ambition, and cultural pride. And today we dive deep into that incredible journey, because the 1920 Buffalo nickel is not just rare metal. It is a gateway into a world where every strike, every line, every image carries the heartbeat of a changing nation. The story of the 1920 Buffalo nickel begins in a United States that was transforming rapidly as the 20th century gained momentum, a country shifting from rural landscapes to industrial cities, a society pushing forward with new inventions, bold ideas, and expanding culture, yet still holding tightly to the traditions and memories of the land and the people who shaped its past. And in the middle of this, transformation. The U.S. Mint sought a new design for the 5-cent piece, a design that would express the strength, the courage, and the heritage of America. And for this bold mission, the Mint turned to the talented sculptor James Earl Fraser, whose childhood experiences on the Western frontier and his deep respect for Native American culture guided every stroke of his artistic vision. Fraser believed that the true identity of America lived in the faces of the native people and in the rugged strength of the great American bison. And so he created a coin unlike any other before it, a coin that carried a proud Native American portrait on one side and the mighty buffalo on the other, presenting a powerful statement of heritage, resilience, and natural beauty. And when the Buffalo nickel first entered circulation in 1913, it caught the attention of the nation, not just as currency, but as a miniature piece of sculpture, a work of art that people admired, respected, and collected. And by the time the year 1920 arrived, the coin had already become an icon of American culture. The year 1920 was a moment of dramatic change for the United States. The aftermath of World War I was still shaping politics, economics, and daily life, and the country was stepping into a decade of prosperity, innovation, and cultural expansion, often described as the Roaring Twenties. And during this time, the Buffalo nickel continued to flow through the hands of millions, connecting everyday commerce with the deep historical roots of the country. And the 1920 issue played a special role in the series because it marked a steady transition in minting quality, population growth, and artistic wear, patterns that today help collectors identify valuable pieces and rare variants. Minted primarily at the Philadelphia Mint, the 1920 Buffalo nickel reflects a fascinating blend of older minting techniques and evolving technology, leading to a variety of strike qualities across surviving examples. Some coins show crisp, strong details of the Native American profile with visible braids, feathers, and facial texture, while others display softer, weaker strikes, especially on the high points caused by rapid production and metal flow challenges that became common throughout the series, and on the reverse, the Great Buffalo often shows noticeable wear on the shoulder hump and legs, which is one of the first areas to lose detail due to the natural high points of Fraser's sculpted design. The significance of the 1920 Buffalo nickel in coin history also stretches beyond its artistic beauty and into the cultural environment of the era, as Americans traveled, expanded, and built new communities. The presence of this powerful design in everyday trade served as a reminder of the land's early history and the people who walked it long before the modern nation was formed, and every coin carried that message in silence, passing through countless hands across the states, telling its story without words. Collectors today see the 1920 Buffalo nickel as a treasure because it represents a turning point in craftsmanship, American culture, and numismatic history. And while millions were minted, only a fraction survive in high grade due to the heavy wear the design naturally experienced in circulation, making well-preserved examples especially valuable and deeply admired and beyond its financial worth. The coin carries a sense of authenticity and national pride, making it a centerpiece in many collections and a permanent symbol of the American spirit. From its artistic birth under James Earl Fraser, to its journey through the pockets of early 20th century Americans, to its place today in the hands of historians, collectors, and storytellers, the 1920 Buffalo nickel remains one of the most captivating coins the United States has ever produced. And as we explore its details, its history, its symbolism, and its lasting impact, you will discover why this small piece of metal holds a story powerful enough to fill an entire 2-hour journey into the heart of America. 1920. Buffalo Nickel. We step into a world where every detail of its design carries a story, from the artistic lines carved into the metal to the powerful meaning behind every symbol. And when we look closely at the obverse, the front side of the coin, we see a portrait that is far more than a simple engraving. It is a tribute to the Native American people whose presence shaped the earliest chapters of the continent, and James Earl Fraser did not base this image on one singular person, but on a blend of features inspired by 3 distinguished Native American leaders whose identities have been discussed for decades, including Iron-tailed Two Moons and possibly John Big Tree. And this merging of features created a face that represented the strength, the pride, and the heritage of Native America. Rather than portraying only one individual, it conveyed the spirit of an entire culture. This powerful portrait became one of the most iconic faces in American numismatics. And when you look into the eyes of the figure, you see a quiet intensity, a story of history, survival, and honor captured in the texture of the cheekbones, the curve of the jaw, and the deep lines that reveal character and resilience. And during the year 1920, as the nation was stepping into a modern age, this traditional portrait created a bridge between the past and the present, reminding Americans of the people who first inhabited the land and shaped its early legacy while the country was moving toward skyscrapers, radios, automobiles, and broader national ambitions. Turning to the reverse of the coin, we find the striking image of the great American buffalo, also known as the bison, an animal that for centuries represented power, freedom, and the vast beauty of the great. Plains and Fraser based this figure on a living bison believed by many to be Black Diamond, a real buffalo from the Central Park Zoo in New York. And although historians debate the exact animal, the inspiration is clear. The buffalo stands firm, grounded, strong, solid, and noble, symbolizing the endurance and spirit of the American frontier. And in the 1920 issue, this bison often shows varying levels of strike sharpness, with details in the fur legs and hump that reveal how the minting technology of the time sometimes struggled to bring full depth to such an intricate design. Imagine holding a coin that captures the heartbeat of a nation at a moment when America was stepping boldly into the 20th century, a coin struck not just as currency, but as a declaration of identity, a tribute to heritage, and a symbol of a changing world. This is the 1913 Buffalo nickel, a coin whose story begins long before metal ever touched the dies. a story woven from the vision of artists, the pride of a people, and the unstoppable march of a people, and the unstoppable march of progress. And if you stay with me, you will experience the full, incredible journey of how this iconic coin was born, how it evolved through controversy, challenge, and triumph, and how it became one of the most beloved and hunted pieces in American history. From its first strike in 1913 to the mysteries, debates, and discoveries collectors still chase today, the Buffalo nickel stands as a masterpiece, forged from ambition, creativity, and cultural symbolism, and today we dive deep into every detail with a history so rich and captivating you could make a full-length documentary and still barely scratch the surface. To understand the Buffalo nickel of 1913, you must travel back to the early 1900s, when the United States was ready to transform its coinage. Art critics, artists, government officials, and the public were pushing for coins that represented national identity rather than simple functional currency. After the revolutionary designs of Augustus St. Gaudens set a new artistic standard for gold coinage, there was a desire for more beauty, more symbolism, and more distinctly American imagery on circulating coins. This desire ignited a wave of redesigns that would eventually reach the humble nickel, which still carried the Liberty Head design introduced in 1883, a design that had grown stale and no longer reflected the artistic ambition of the era. Enter James Earl Fraser, a brilliant sculptor born in Winona, Minnesota, whose early life on the Dakota frontier shaped his creative soul. Fraser grew up among the vast plains and the Native American communities that lived there, witnessing both the natural beauty of the land and the fading independence of the indigenous nations. His experiences forged an artistic vision centered on realism, struggle identity, and the human spirit. So when the opportunity came to redesign the 5-cent piece, he knew exactly what he wanted to portray. He envisioned a coin that captured the essence of America's western frontier, a coin that symbolized both the people and the animals that had shaped the story of the land long before city skylines and railroads rose across the nation. And so Fraser submitted a design unlike anything the Mint had ever seen. A powerful portrait of a Native American warrior on the obverse, struck with detail, strength, and dignity, and on the reverse, the mighty American bison standing proudly on a rugged plain. The design was bold, emotional, and culturally significant. It was a tribute to the first peoples of the continent and a reflection of the untamed West that still lingered in the national imagination. But with this masterpiece came immediate challenges. The Mint director Charles Barber, well known for his resistance to highly artistic designs, was quick to criticize Fraser's concepts, claiming the high relief would wear down too quickly and harm the coin's durability. But Fraser defended his vision, and after rounds of adjustments, revisions, and debates, the Buffalo nickel was approved for production in 1913, making it one of the most anticipated coin releases in modern U.S. history. When the first Buffalo nickels rolled out of the presses in early February 1913, public reaction was explosive. Crowds formed to obtain the new coins. Newspapers nationwide published stories praising the artistry and symbolism of the design. People cherished the coin instantly for its rugged beauty and cultural significance. But the celebration did not last unchallenged. The Mint almost immediately faced complaints: the date and the 5 cents. Inscription were positioned in high points of the design, which caused rapid wear in circulation. Banks, merchants, and even ordinary citizens noticed that dates were vanishing quickly, making the coin difficult to identify. Complaints poured into the treasury and pressure mounted to rework the design. This led to the creation of two major varieties in 1913, the Type 1 and the Type 2 Buffalo nickel. Type Y featured the bison, standing on a raised mound, a strong artistic choice, but one that exposed the 5 cents inscription to fast wear to solve the problem. Type 2 was introduced later in 1913 with the bison standing on a flat line or exergue, which offered more protection for the denomination. The changes created two distinct striking patterns for the same year, making 1913 one of the most studied dates in American numismatics. The Type 1 is admired for its raw, artistic purity, while the Type 2 represents the mint's attempt to balance beauty with practicality. Together, these coins launched a new era of U.S. coinage and set the stage for the Buffalo nickel to circulate for a quarter of a century through World War I, the Roaring Twenties, and the Great Depression. The 1913 Buffalo nickel was also a reflection of American culture at a time when the West still lived vividly in the nation's imagination. Newspapers, magazines, literature, and emerging Hollywood films romanticized Native Americans and the open plains. So when Fraser chose to base the Native American portrait on a combination of real historical figures, Iron Tail, Two Moons, and possibly John Big Tree, he created a composite image that symbolized strength, honor, and resilience rather than a portrait of a single individual. This decision added layers of meaning to the coin, preserving the identity of Native American culture for generations. In a single powerful image, the Buffalo II was modeled after Black Diamond, the famous bison from the Central Park Zoo. He was one of the most photographed animals of his time, and Fraser had studied him closely to capture the rugged power of the species, an animal that represented both American wilderness and the tragic decline of the once mighty herds. But beyond the artistry and symbolism, the 1913 Buffalo nickel experienced a life of constant criticism, adjustments, technical challenges, and public fascination. Mint workers struggled with the dies, which wore out quickly because of the intricate details. Collectors in later decades discovered countless varieties, errors, and striking anomalies that turned the Buffalo nickel series into a treasure hunt, including doubled dies, overdates, repunched mint marks, and unusual die cracks. Some specimens show dramatic clashes where the reverse image faintly appears on the front or vice versa, giving collectors clues about the struggles inside the mint's early 20th century production rooms. These imperfections added depth to the coin's legacy, making the 1913 issues especially interesting for numismatists who cherish coins with stories embedded in their flaws. The Buffalo nickel's run from 1913 to 1938 revealed much about America. The coin witnessed monumental national changes, the entry into World War I, the post-war boom, the cultural revolution of the Jazz Age, and the harsh realities of the Great Depression. Yet through it all, the Buffalo nickel remained a symbol of rugged American spirit. Eventually, in 1938, the mint replaced it with the Jefferson nickel, marking the end of Fraser's masterpiece in circulation, but the beginning of its immortal status among collectors. Today, the 1913 Buffalo nickel stands as one of the most iconic coins ever produced. Its historical significance, cultural symbolism, artistic brilliance, and rare varieties make it a captivating subject for every collector, novice, or expert. And when you explore its story in full depth, from Fraser's childhood to mint controversies, from design challenges to public obsession, you realize that the Buffalo nickel is not just a coin. It is a chapter of American identity preserved in metal. It is a link between the modern United States and the fading frontier, a bridge between cultures and a testament to the power of art in everyday objects. And as we continue unfolding its story, piece by piece, we discover why this coin remains a timeless source of fascination, why collectors chase it with passion, and why the 1913 Buffalo nickel will forever be remembered as one of the greatest achievements in American numismatic history. In a world where every old coin holds a secret and every worn-down surface hides a forgotten chapter, the 1925 Buffalo nickel stands as a legendary artifact, a rugged reminder of America's untamed frontier and a symbol of an era that shaped the identity of a nation. And today we dive deep into the unforgettable journey of this remarkable coin. A story filled with artistic brilliance, cultural transformation, minting struggles, hidden varieties, collector mysteries, and the incredible rise in value that has turned this piece of 5-cent history into one of the most fascinating coins ever produced. And as this adventure unfolds, you will discover how one small nickel captured the wild heartbeat of early America, how it carried the image of a proud Native American chief and a mighty buffalo across millions of pockets during the Roaring Twenties, and how every scratch, every faded line, every surviving detail connects us directly to the people who lived nearly a century ago, starting with the coin's creation in 1913, when famed sculptor James Earl Fraser sought to break away from traditional designs and bring raw American heritage to life, using a composite portrait of real Native American chiefs and a powerful buffalo named Black Diamond. The design immediately captured public attention, yet it also faced endless challenges from the mint due to Die-Wear Week strikes and constant retooling. And by the time the year 1925 arrived, the mints in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco were locked in a battle against worn dies, constant replacements, and a demanding production schedule, making the 1925 Buffalo nickel one of the most telling markers of the series' technical struggles and triumphs. And as the crisp details faded from dies, the strength of the Native American profile, the sharpness of the braid, the definition of the feathers, the contour of the buffalo's hump, and the clarity of the ground beneath its feet changed with every strike, creating countless subtle variations that collectors would study for decades to come. The year 1925 also carried the weight of a shifting America, an age of expanding cities, roaring industries, booming automobiles, and powerful cultural changes. Yet in rural towns, frontier communities, and working-class pockets, the Buffalo nickel lived as a silent witness passing through. Train stations, farms, factories, and speakeasies becoming a real-time postcard of life during the vibrant yet challenging 20s. And throughout our detailed journey, you will discover the Philadelphia mint strikes known for their abundance yet prone to soft details, the scarcer Denver mint pieces recognized for stronger relief and better definition, and the rarest of the year, the San Francisco issues, where low mintages and weak strikes created one of the most collectible Buffalo nickels ever made. And this story will take you deeper into grading standards, how the coin transforms from good to fine, to very fine, to extremely fine, and finally to mint state, where luster brilliance and untouched surfaces push values into the thousands. And you will learn about full horn details, the importance of the buffalo's leg lines, the strength of the braid, and the legendary rarity of fully struck San Francisco coins that have become holy grails for top collectors. And as this long journey unfolds, you will step inside the mints, meet the engravers, follow the historical events, feel the cultural heartbeat of the decade, understand the strike issues, explore die erosion, review market trends, and witness how this single year of Buffalo nickel production shaped the legacy of American coinage forever. And by the end of this deep 2-hour exploration, you will not only know why the 1925 Buffalo nickel is treasured worldwide, but you will feel the history living inside it, the art beating through it, and the spirit of early America shining from it as we travel through the full story of a coin that refuses to be forgotten. The world of the 1925 Buffalo nickel. We move further into the landscape of its production, challenges its artistic soul, and the human stories that shaped every piece. Because every coin from this year carries echoes of the people who designed it, struck it, spent it, saved it, and eventually passed it down. And when we examine the heart of this coin, we find James Earl Fraser standing at the center, a man inspired by the fading frontier, who believed that America's coinage should reflect the true character of the nation, not mythology, not borrowed symbolism, but the real rugged legacy of its own land. And to capture that legacy, he traveled deep into his memories of the Dakota Territory, where he spent his childhood among the prairies, the cattle herds, the railroad workers, and the Native Americans who shaped his earliest impressions. And these memories carved the very soul of the Buffalo nickel, giving it a level of authenticity and power no other coin of its era possessed. And the Native American profile on the obverse, drawn from 3 real chiefs, Iron Tail, Two Moons, and Big Tree, became a national portrait that honored a culture often overlooked. And despite the mint's frustration with Fraser's high relief design, he refused to compromise the bold artistic message woven into every detail, and that resistance to change created the striking realities we now study in the 1925 issues coins, with strong high points, coins with soft impressions coins with blending features, all depending on the life and wear of the dies used at each mint. And if we zoom into the Philadelphia Mint floor in 1925, we would see teams struggling with rapid die erosion as the detailed lines of the hair, the cheekbone, the feather tips, and the buffalo's shoulder wore down quickly, forcing constant replacements and creating countless micro-variations that modern collectors analyze with extreme fascination. And in Denver, the story was different. The mountain air, the heavy workload, and the skilled mint workers created nickels with generally stronger detail and sharper horns. Yet even there, the design's high points faded too quickly, leading to incomplete strikes that today help experts determine die states and production sequences. And in San Francisco, the year 1925 turned into a struggle of its own, as low mintage numbers and tired dies resulted in coins that were soft-struck almost from the very beginning, leaving many pieces with weak horns, flat features, and indistinct ground lines, making fully struck San Francisco examples among the rarest treasures in all Buffalo nickel collecting. And as we drift further into the era, we discover the real world surrounding these coins. The bustling streets of New York, the industrial thunder of Detroit, the rise of Hollywood in California, and the expanding highways that carried families across America with coins, like these jingling in their pockets representing both survival and progress. And when these nickels passed through the hands of farmers, coal miners, mechanics, soldiers, immigrants, children, and travelers, each coin absorbed a little of their journey, adding spirit to the metal and connecting generations through touch and time. And as these coins circulated, countless stories unfolded: a child buying candy, a worker paying for streetcar fare, a family saving, coins in a small jar, a merchant counting change at dusk. And every transaction gave the 1925 Buffalo nickel more life, more meaning, more emotional weight, which we carry into the present day. And for collectors, the adventure only grows richer when analyzing grading levels, because a well-circulated coin tells a long story, but an uncirculated mint state coin reveals how the piece looked the moment it left the press, glowing with luster, shimmering with fresh metal, reflecting the design exactly as Fraser imagined it. And when we look at mint state examples from 1925, we see the brilliance of untouched surfaces, the rolling cartwheel luster, the crisp edges of the feathers, the strong curvature of the cheekbone, the smooth yet defined musculature of the buffalo. And these pristine coins remind us how beautiful the design truly was before the stress of circulation softened and reshaped it. And as we continue our 2-hour exploration, we travel deeper into the die varieties. The repunched mint marks, the subtle doubling on features, the diagnostic markers used by experts to authenticate rare versions of the 1925 strikes. In the collecting world, there exists a coin that does not just sit quietly inside an album, but roars with the voice of a nation fighting to define itself in the early 20th century. A coin born from artistry, conflict, innovation, and pride. A coin that captures the frontier spirit of America in a single powerful design. This is the story of the Buffalo nickel, and today we journey deep into the year 1919, a year of transition, struggle, and rebirth as the United States stepped out of the shadows of World War I and into a new era. And the 1919 Buffalo nickel stands as a metallic witness to that transformation, crafted during a time when America sought to honor its indigenous roots and celebrate its Western heritage. This coin holds drama, history, art, and mystery in every detail, and collectors today chase it not only for its monetary value, but for the cultural heartbeat preserved within the metal. So prepare yourself as we travel back more than a century to uncover how this legendary nickel came to life, who designed it, what inspired it, why it struggled in production, and how the 1919 edition became one of the most historically meaningful coins of the entire Buffalo nickel series. Because this is not just money. This is a story carved in copper and nickel, a tribute to a nation and a reminder of a lost world that still echoes through the corridors of American history. Our journey begins in the early 1910s, when the United States Mint sought to replace the long-running Liberty Head nickel, which after decades of circulation had grown outdated, uninspired, and disconnected from the cultural identity the nation wanted to project. President Theodore Roosevelt had sparked a movement to beautify American coinage, and the Buffalo nickel became part of this artistic revolution. The Mint commissioned sculptor James Earl Fraser, a student of the legendary Augustus St. Gaudens, and a man deeply influenced by his childhood experiences on the American frontier. Fraser grew up in Minnesota near Native American communities, and frontier life shaped his understanding of the cultural struggles taking place across the nation. He had witnessed the last days of the buffalo herds and the fading traditions of tribes whose voices were being drowned by rapid expansion and modernization. These memories guided his hands as he sketched the earliest concepts for the new nickel. He envisioned a coin that honored Native Americans and the disappearing symbol of the American bison, capturing both strength and vulnerability in a single design. When Fraser presented the artwork, it stunned government officials. The obverse featured the powerful profile of a Native American man, not a generic image, but a composite created from several real tribal leaders whom Fraser admired, including Irontail, Two Moons, and possibly others. The face radiated pride, endurance, and resilience on the reverse. He sculpted a mighty buffalo believed to be modeled after Black Diamond, a famous bison living in the Central Park Zoo in New York. The massive shape of the animal standing firmly on a mound represented America's rugged natural heritage, something raw and pure unlike anything previously seen on U.S. coinage. But the beauty of the design created intense challenges for the Mint. From the moment the Buffalo nickel entered production, officials discovered that the high relief details caused rapid dye wear, and the inscriptions, such as the date and the words 5 cents, were prone to fading during circulation. The Mint made multiple small changes in the first years to improve durability, lowering relief, strengthening inscriptions, and adjusting Fraser's lettering. Despite these issues, the coin entered circulation in 1913 and instantly became one of the most visually striking pieces of American currency ever made. As we step forward into 1919, the United States stood at a major turning point. World War I had ended the year before, and millions of soldiers were returning home. Industries were shifting from wartime production to consumer goods, and the nation was preparing for the beginning of the Roaring Twenties. But beneath the excitement were deep social tensions, inflation, labor strikes, and political unrest. The economy was unstable, and coin circulation patterns reflected the shifting financial landscape the Buffalo nickel needed to keep up with rapidly increasing demand while still enduring the wear and tear of daily commerce. The 1919 Buffalo nickel was minted at 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, each producing coins with slight differences in quality and scarcity. Philadelphia produced the highest number, and its coins circulated widely, while the Denver Mint struggled with quality issues that resulted in many coins showing weak strikes, especially on the buffalo's horn and the Native American's hair detail, the san. Tier of daily commerce. The 1919 Buffalo nickel was minted at 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, each producing coins with slight differences in quality and scarcity. Philadelphia produced the highest number, and its coins circulated widely, while the Denver Mint struggled with quality issues that resulted in many coins showing weak strikes, especially on the buffalo's horn and the Native American's hair detail, the San Francisco Mint produced the lowest number, making the 1919 S one of the more sought-after issues for collectors today, though still not the rarest of the entire series. What makes the 1919 year so historically powerful is not just mintage totals, but the moment in which it was produced. This coin circulated through towns and farmlands. As America transitioned out of the war, its surfaces were touched by factory workers, railroad, engineers, miners, immigrants, shop owners, and returning soldiers for them. This nickel was more than currency. It was the symbol of a rebuilding nation, a small but constant reminder that the frontier spirit still lived, even as modern life began to dominate the American landscape. The artistry of the 1919 Buffalo nickel continued to leave citizens captivated. Rumors spread about the inspiration for the AO Native American portrait, with people speculating endlessly about which chiefs and tribes were represented. Fraser maintained that it was a composite meant to honor many rather than portray one specific individual, but many claimed cultural ownership of the image. The buffalo on the reverse also captured national imagination. Black Diamond's connection to the coin became well known, and spectators often visited the zoo just to see the animal that served as the inspiration, though historians debate whether Fraser definitively used Black Diamond as the model. The story became folded into American folklore, giving the coin a mythic aura. By the late 1910s. The Buffalo nickel had already become a cultural icon used in advertisements, illustrations, patriotic posters, and educational materials. Its appearance was so bold, so distinctive, that it stood apart from all other coins. Continued to battle the design's weaknesses. The date was deeply recessed into Fraser's sculpting and tended to wear off quickly, creating countless dateless Buffalo nickels that still appear in old coin jars. Today, collectors often lamented this, but it also added to the coin's mystique. Every worn Buffalo nickel felt like a survivor of a lost era, and every sharp 1919 example became a treasure of American heritage. Where ordinary pocket change turns into extraordinary American history, and today we travel deep into the heart of the United States on the edge of world-changing events, as we uncover the powerful story of the Jefferson nickel. 1941. A coin that lived in the final calm moments before America was pulled into the fire of World War II. This is not just a 5-cent coin. This is a silent witness to factories waking before dawn, families listening to radios, farmers, mechanic soldiers, and dreamers all sharing the same uncertain future. 1941 was the last full year of peace for the United States, and every Jefferson nickel struck that year carried the weight of a nation standing at a crossroads, designed by sculptor Felix Schlag. The coin shows Thomas Jefferson, a founding father who believed in liberty, education, and the strength of the common citizen, and on the reverse stands Monticello, his home a symbol of American ideals, stability, intelligence, and endurance. And in 1941, these ideals were being tested, like never before. Millions of these nickels were produced in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, flowing through diners, movie theaters, train stations, and corner stores. While the world beyond the oceans was already at war, the metal itself tells a story made of copper and nickel, before wartime shortages would soon force the government to change the very composition of American coinage, making this issue the final breath of normal metal before history shifted forever. Collectors today see the 1941 Jefferson nickel as a bridge between eras, a coin of calm before chaos, a piece of money that bought coffee, newspapers, and hope while unknowingly counting down the days to Pearl Harbor. Each strike from the mint echoed with confidence that America would endure and survive. And when you hold this coin, you are holding the final chapter of innocence before sacrifice, reshaped the nation values condition. Mint marks, errors, and survival rates all add layers to its story, but the true value lies in what it represents, a country about to change forever. This video will take you through the design, the minting process, the historical backdrop, the lives of the people who used this coin, the mistakes that created rare varieties, and why collectors and historians still respect the 1941 Jefferson nickel as one of the most important pre-war coins ever made. Stay with us, because by the end of this journey, you will never look at a small 5-cent coin the same way again. As the 1941 Jefferson nickel continued to roll off the presses, the United States Mint was operating at full strength, responding to a growing economy fueled by industry innovation and cautious optimism. The Philadelphia Mint produced the largest share, acting as the backbone of national coinage. While Denver and San Francisco supported the western expansion of commerce, each mint left its subtle signature through mint marks that today help collectors trace the journey of every surviving coin. These nickels passed from hand to hand across a nation, buying bread milk, gasoline, and movie tickets, while radios spoke of distant battles and uncertain futures. The faces that touched these coins belonged to factory workers, steel mill laborers, teachers, shopkeepers, and young men who would soon trade civilian clothes for uniforms, and the nickel became part of daily routine, quiet, dependable, and unremarkable. Yet history was building pressure beneath the surface. The portrait of Jefferson itself tells a deeper story. Schlag original design faced controversy when first introduced, yet by 1941 it had become a familiar face, symbolizing democratic values, intellectual freedom, and the belief that the strength of America lived in its people. Jefferson's gaze on the coin appears calm, reflective, almost unaware of the storm approaching. And Monticello, on the reverse, stands firm, balanced and precise, representing order, knowledge, and permanence at a time when the world was losing. Both the steps and columns are sharply defined on well-preserved examples, and collectors today search for strong strikes, especially on the steps of Monticello, because they represent quality craftsmanship from a mint system still untouched by wartime shortcuts. As the year progressed, whispers of conflict grew louder, yet daily. Life continued, and the nickel remained unchanged, made of the traditional copper-nickel alloy that would soon become impossible to sustain once war demanded those metals for tanks, ships, and weapons. This makes the 1941 issue historically significant because it belongs to the final generation of standard composition nickels before Silver War nickels took their place. And when America entered the war in December, every coin already in circulation instantly became a relic of the before time, a reminder of how quickly normal life can disappear. Collectors today study this coin not only for rarity, but for meaning. Most 1941 Jefferson nickels are affordable in circulated grades, yet in high mint state condition. Their value rises sharply, especially examples with full steps, sharp luster, and minimal contact marks. Error coins add another chapter, including doubled dies, off-center strikes, and repunched mint marks, each error created by human hands and mechanical limits, offering a glimpse inside the mint floor where speed, precision, and pressure ruled every second. Survival rates tell us millions were melted, lost, or worn smooth through decades of use, leaving fewer pristine survivors than original mintages suggest. To truly understand the 1941 Jefferson nickel, you must imagine the sound of coins dropping into cash drawers, the weight of change in a soldier's pocket before deployment, the hope of a family buying groceries while the radio announces breaking news. This coin does not shout its importance. It whispers it through metal wear and memory. And as this video continues, we will dive deeper into mint-by-mint production stories, wartime transitions, collector strategies, grading secrets, and why this humble 5-cent piece remains one of the strongest storytellers in American numismatics history. Stay with the channel name Coins, because every coin has a past, and some pasts are powerful enough to change the way we see the present. Today you are about to hear a story that almost no one tells, a story hiding in plain sight, a story carried in pockets, passed through hands, and ignored by millions, yet powerful enough to reflect an entire era of American history. This is the Jefferson nickel 1994. A coin most people think they already understand, but the truth is far deeper, richer, and more surprising than you have ever imagined before you decide this coin is ordinary. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will never look at a nickel the same way again. The 1994 Jefferson nickel was born in a moment of quiet change in the United States. A time when America stood at the edge of the modern world, technology was accelerating. The Cold War had ended, and the nation was redefining its identity. While people focused on headlines and world events, the United States Mint continued its silent mission, striking millions of small metal storytellers. and among them was the 1994 Jefferson nickel, a coin that captured stability, tradition, and endurance in an age of transition. To understand the 1994 Jefferson nickel, you must first understand why the Jefferson nickel exists. At all, the design first appeared in 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel and honoring Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, and the author of the United States and the author of the Declaration of Independence. Jefferson represented intellect, liberty, and the foundation of American democracy, and Monticello. His famous home symbolized vision, education, and American ideals by 1994. This design had already served the nation for more than half a century, making it one of the most recognized coins in American history. In 1994, the United States Mint produced Jefferson nickels at 3 major facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia and Denver coins were made for everyday circulation, while San Francisco struck proof versions specifically for collectors. The total mintage reached hundreds of millions, meaning this coin was everywhere: grocery stores, gas stations, vending machines, and pockets across the country. Yet despite these massive numbers, subtle differences in strike, quality, condition, and finish would later separate common examples from highly desirable collector pieces. The composition of the 1994 Jefferson nickel remained the classic copper-nickel alloy, 75% copper and 25% nickel, a formula used since the end of World War II, chosen for durability and resistance. To wear this blend allowed the coin to survive decades of circulation while maintaining its details, making it a perfect workhorse coin for daily commerce and a long-lasting artifact for collectors. The obverse of the 1994 Jefferson nickel features a left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson, calm, thoughtful, and reserved. The engraving shows a refined, mature design that had evolved over decades. The word liberty appears beside the portrait, along with the date 1994, a simple arrangement that reinforces the timeless message of freedom and continuity. This side of the coin may appear simple, but it reflects a careful balance between art history and mass production. The reverse of the coin displays Monticello Jefferson's historic home, a symbol of American enlightenment, architecture, and personal achievement. The building is centered, strong, and symmetrical, with its steps, columns, and dome clearly visible above. Appears the phrase "e pluribus unum," meaning out of many one, while the words Monticello and 5 cents anchor the design below. This reverse reminds us that even the smallest denomination carries the weight of national philosophy and unity. What makes the 1994 Jefferson nickel especially interesting to collectors is not just its design or history, but its condition. Coins struck in 1994 often show weak steps on Monticello due to high-speed minting presses. However, examples with full steps, known as full steps nickels, are far scarcer and far more valuable. These coins show 5 or 6 fully defined steps at the base of Monticello and represent superior strike quality, a detail many collectors spend years hunting. Proof versions of the 1994 Jefferson nickel, produced in San Francisco, feature mirror-like fields and frosted devices created through special minting techniques. These coins were never meant for circulation and were sold directly to collectors when preserved in perfect condition. They stand as stunning examples of mint craftsmanship and command strong premiums in the collector market. The real power of the 1994 Jefferson nickel lies in its role as a historical bridge. It connects the early vision of America through Thomas Jefferson to the modern digital age. It passed through the hands of factory workers, students, soldiers, and families during the 1990s, a decade of change, optimism, and globalization. Every worn edge and softened detail tells a story of movement, trade, and daily life. Today, the 1994 Jefferson nickel remains affordable, accessible, and widely collected, making it an ideal entry point for new collectors and a fascinating study for seasoned numismatists. It proves that value is not always about rarity alone, but about context, condition, and the story behind the metal. So the next time you see a nickel dated 1994, remember you are holding more than 5 cents. You are holding a piece of American continuity, a quiet witness to history, a coin that survived economic shifts, cultural change, and the march of time. This is why the Jefferson nickel 1994 matters, and this is only the beginning of its story here on Channel Name Coins. Stay with us, because every coin has a secret, and every year has a story worth telling. You are about to hear a story that most people walk past every single day without realizing its power, its mystery, and its hidden importance. This is not just a 5-cent coin. This is the 1998 Jefferson nickel, a small piece of metal that carries inside it the weight of American history, political change, economic pressure, and the quiet strength of a nation moving toward a new millennium. Imagine holding this coin in your hand and understanding that it was born at a moment when America was standing on the edge of the digital age, when the internet was changing life forever, when the economy was booming, yet uncertainty was quietly building beneath the surface. The 1998 Jefferson nickel was struck by the United States Mint in a time of confidence, stability, and transition, and every detail of this coin reflects that moment in history. The Jefferson nickel design itself traces back to 1938 when President Thomas Jefferson, one of the founding fathers of the United States, replaced the Buffalo nickel. The choice of Jefferson was not accidental. He represented democracy, intellect, independence, and the vision of a self-governing nation. By 1998, this design had already survived 60 years unchanged, proving its strength and acceptance by the American people on the obverse of the 1998 nickel. You see Felix Schlag's classic portrait of Jefferson, calm, dignified, and facing left, a portrait that had become one of the most recognizable images in American coinage by the late 20th century. His hair, his expression, and even the shape of his profile were carefully preserved to maintain continuity with the past, reminding Americans that even as technology and society change, the foundations of the nation remain the same. Turn the coin over, and you find Monticello Jefferson's historic home engraved in strong, clean lines. Monticello is more than a building. It is a symbol of knowledge, innovation, and leadership. Jefferson designed it himself, and its presence on the coin reinforces the idea that America values intellect, vision, and long-term thinking on the 1998 Jefferson nickel. The Monticello design appears sharp and balanced, especially on well-preserved examples showing the quality control standards of the modern U.S. Mint era. Above it reads, "E pluribus unum," out of many one A, phrase that carried special meaning in 1998 as America experienced globalization, immigration growth, and cultural change. Now let us talk about the year 1998 itself, because this is where the story becomes truly fascinating. The United States was enjoying one of the strongest economies in its history. Unemployment was low, inflation was controlled, and the stock market was climbing rapidly. Yet at the same time, political tension was present. Technological change was accelerating, and the world was becoming smaller, faster, and more connected. The 1998 Jefferson nickel circulated during a time when people were beginning to use credit cards, online banking, and digital payments, yet cash coins and physical money still dominated daily life. This nickel passed through vending machines, grocery stores, gas stations, and school cafeterias, silently witnessing the last great era of everyday coin. Usage before the digital revolution would begin to reduce it. The 1998 Jefferson nickel was minted in large numbers at both the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint, with mint marks P and D, as well as special proof versions produced at the San Francisco Mint. These proof coins were struck with extra care for collectors, featuring mirror-like fields and frosted designs representing the highest quality of modern American coinage. While circulated examples were made for daily use, they still followed precise metal standards composed of 75% copper and 25% nickel, the same alloy used since the mid-20th century, giving the coin durability, weight, and a familiar feel in the hand. What makes the 1998 Jefferson nickel especially interesting for collectors and historians is not just its design or mintage, but its place in the timeline. It represents the calm before major change. Just a few years later, the Westward Journey nickel series would redesign the reverse and temporarily alter Jefferson's portrait, breaking a tradition that had lasted decades. So the 1998 nickel stands as one of the last examples of the classic uninterrupted Jefferson Monticello era in its original form for many collectors. This gives it historical importance even if its face value remains small. Errors and varieties also add depth to the story. Some 1998 nickels show off center strike's weak steps on Monticello or die cracks that tell us about the pressure and speed of modern minting. These imperfections transform ordinary coins into unique artifacts, each error acting like a fingerprint of the machine that created it. Collectors search rolls and collections hoping to find a hidden treasure that escaped quality control, reminding us that even in the modern age, perfection is never guaranteed. As you listen to this story, remember that the Jefferson Nickel 1998 is not about instant riches. It is about understanding the flow of history. It is about realizing that coins are time capsules, metal witnesses to politics, economics, culture, and daily life. This nickel connects Thomas Jefferson's 18th century ideals with the late 20th century American experience and carries them forward into the pockets of millions. It teaches us that history is not only found in textbooks or museums, but also in the smallest objects we touch every day. So as we continue deeper into this journey on channel name coins, we will explore production numbers, mint locations, collector value errors, cultural impact, and why coins, like the 1998 Jefferson nickel, deserve respect, attention, and curiosity because once you truly understand a coin, you never see spare change the same way again. And this is only the beginning of a story that could easily fill hours with meaning, detail, and discovery, where ordinary pocket change turns into extraordinary American history. And today, you are about to hear a story that almost nobody tells the full story of the 1973 Jefferson nickel, a coin. Most people have held, spent, ignored, and forgotten. Yet behind this small piece of metal is a powerful chapter of United States history filled with economic pressure, changing metal prices, political decisions, mint struggles, collector secrets, and silent errors that can turn a common-looking nickel into a serious collector's treasure. So sit back, stay focused, and listen closely, because by the end of this story, you will never look at a Jefferson nickel the same way again. The 1973 Jefferson nickel was born in a time when America itself was under pressure. The Vietnam War was still shaping the nation. Inflation was rising. Gas shortages were approaching, and trust in government was being tested. Every coin struck in this era carried the weight of uncertainty, and the Jefferson nickel was no exception. Designed originally by Felix Schlag in 1938, the Jefferson nickel had already been in circulation for decades by 1973. But this year marked a critical moment when the coin was no longer just currency. It was a survivor of economic stress and industrial challenge. The composition of the 1973 nickel remained 75% copper and 25% nickel, a formula that sounds simple but was becoming expensive as metal prices climbed the United States. Mint had to strike millions of coins while keeping costs under control and quality consistent, which was not always easy that year. The Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint produced massive numbers of nickels, while the San Francisco Mint focused on proof versions intended for collectors rather than circulation. And this difference alone created multiple paths of rarity and value. The Philadelphia Mint struck coins without a mint mark, a detail many beginners overlook. Yet this missing letter is exactly how experts identify its origin. The Denver Mint added the small d, which today helps collectors track strike quality and rarity patterns, while the San Francisco proofs were carefully struck with polished dies, creating mirror-like fields and sharp details that stand apart from everyday pocket change. But even with careful planning, the Mint faced problems dieware. Weak strikes and subtle errors slipped into circulation unnoticed at the time. Weak steps on Monticello became common, because the nickel metal was hard on dies, and full steps Examples from 1973 are now highly desirable among advanced collectors and grading services. Pay close attention to the steps beneath Monticello because they tell the story of how fresh or worn the die was when the coin was struck. Error coins from 1973 are now highly desirable among advanced collectors and grading services. Pay close attention to the steps beneath Monticello because they tell the story of how fresh or worn the die was when the coin was struck. Error coins from this year include off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, and double die varieties that can only be seen by those who know exactly where to look and when inflation pushed people to ignore low-value coins. Many of these errors were spent lost or damaged, making surviving high-grade examples even harder to find. The portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse reflects a calm, steady vision of leadership, contrasting sharply with the uncertain world of 1973, and the reverse showing Monticello represents stability, tradition, and the foundation of American democracy values that felt increasingly important during that era. This coin circulated through gas stations, grocery stores, and factory pay envelopes, silently witnessing daily American life during a period of change and struggle, and while millions were made, very few survived in pristine condition, because nickels were workhorses used heavily, rarely saved, and often abused. Which is why, today, finding a 1973 Jefferson nickel in high mint state or proof condition is far more difficult than most people expect. Collectors today search Rolls collections and old jars, hoping to uncover a sharp strike-full steps or a proof coin with deep cameo contrast, because these pieces can command significant premiums far above face value, and grading can dramatically change a coin's worth, turning a 5-cent piece into a prized collectible. The story of the 1973 Jefferson nickel is not about instant riches, but about hidden history, patience, knowledge, and the thrill of discovery. It represents an era when America balanced tradition with change, when the mint balanced cost with quality, and when a simple coin carried more meaning than its face value suggests. This is why coin collectors study years like 1973, because they reveal how history, economics, and craftsmanship collide in metal. And if you are holding a Jefferson nickel from this year, you are holding a silent witness to American resilience. So keep watching, keep learning, and keep searching, because the next valuable piece of history could already be in your hands right now. 1973 Jefferson nickel. It is important to understand how this coin fit into the everyday rhythm of American life at that exact moment in history. This was not a collector's coin. When it was released, it was a work coin designed to move fast from hand to hand, from factory floors to lunch counters, from parking meters to jukeboxes, and because of that heavy use, the survival rate of high-quality examples dropped quickly. Nickels were rarely pulled aside or saved, unlike silver coins of earlier decades. And this reality makes 1973 nickels in strong condition far more interesting today than most people realize. The United States Mint was under pressure to meet demand because commerce relied on small change vending machines, public transportation, and pay phones all required reliable coinage, and the Jefferson nickel played a major role in keeping daily transactions moving. Yet the harder nickel alloy caused faster die deterioration, resulting in softer details, especially on Monticello and its steps. And this is where collectors today focus their attention, because the steps beneath Monticello are like fingerprints of the minting process. Sharp steps mean a strong strike and a fresh die, while flat or blended steps reveal rushed production and worn equipment, making full steps examples from this year increasingly scarce and valuable, especially from the Denver Mint, where strike quality often varied widely. Another layer of fascination comes from the proof coins struck at San Francisco. These were not meant for circulation. They were sold directly to collectors in proof sets and carefully preserved, yet even proof coins from 1973 can show imperfections such as haze spotting or light hairlines due to improper storage over the decades, which means truly flawless proof. Nickels with deep, Cameo contrast are far rarer today than the original mintage numbers suggest, and when a proof coin displays bold frosted devices against mirrored fields, it becomes a standout example of mint craftsmanship from a difficult era. Error hunting adds even more excitement to this year because the mint was pushing production limits. Off-center strikes can show dramatic misalignment while still retaining full dates. Broad strikes reveal coins that expanded beyond their collars, creating oversized shapes, and clipped planchets tell the story of metal strips improperly cut before striking double-die varieties. Though subtle can be found with careful magnification, especially in lettering and date details, and these errors were never intentional. They are accidents frozen in time, reminders that even a powerful institution like the United States Mint is run by machines and humans, both capable of small mistakes that later become treasured collectibles. The economic backdrop of 1973 adds emotional weight to this coin. The oil crisis was beginning. Inflation was accelerating, and Americans were feeling financial pressure in everyday life. And while a 5-cent coin may seem insignificant, it represented purchasing power, stability, and routine, and many people relied on exact change to get through daily tasks. This nickel passed through countless hands, each one unaware they were touching a piece of history now studied decades later by numismatists and historians collectors. Today view the 1973 Jefferson nickel as a bridge between eras. Not old enough to be silver, not modern enough to be ignored. It sits quietly in the middle, carrying lessons about metal economics, production challenges, and design longevity. And as grading standards became stricter, coins from this year began separating into clear tiers. Common circulated pieces lightly, collected mint state coins and elite full steps or proof deep cameo examples that command attention, respect, and higher values. And this is why searching old rolls, collections, and inherited jars still matters, because knowledge turns ordinary finds into extraordinary discoveries. And the true power of the 1973 Jefferson nickel lies not in instant fortune, but in understanding what others overlook. It teaches patience, observation, and respect for history struck in metal. So as this story continues, remember every coin has a voice, every year has a lesson, and sometimes the smallest denomination carries the biggest story. And if you keep learning and keep looking, you may already own a quiet treasure waiting to be understood. Today, you are about to travel deep into the hidden story of a coin that millions of people have held, but almost nobody truly understands: the Jefferson nickel 1979, a coin that quietly moved through American pockets while the nation itself was changing forever. And if you think this nickel is just 5 cents, then stay right here, because by the end of this journey, you will never look at this coin the same way again. This is not just metal, this is history, power, politics, mistakes, rarity, and opportunity, all pressed into one small piece of American currency. The 1979 Jefferson nickel was born in an era when the United States was facing inflation, energy crises, Cold War pressure, and major shifts in how money itself was made and valued. And while headlines focused on presidents' gas lines and global tension, the U.S. Mint was working behind closed doors, striking billions of nickels using a design that already carried decades of legacy, a design that honored Thomas Jefferson, one of the most influential founding fathers, and Monticello, the iconic home that symbolized intelligence, independence, and American ideals. Yet the 1979 issue stands at a crossroads between old traditions and modern coinage technology produced in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. This coin reflects differences in minting quality production numbers and collector demand that still shape its value today. And as we go deeper, we uncover why some 1979 nickels are worth only face value, while others can sell for serious money depending on condition strike errors, mint marks, and survival rates. We will explore how composition plays a role with its copper-nickel alloy built for durability during a time when precious metals were being removed from circulating coins. We will break down the exact mintages and why high production numbers do not automatically mean low value. We will expose weak strikes, full steps on Monticello, and why that tiny detail can turn a common nickel into a collector treasure. We will examine proof versions from San Francisco, and why pristine examples are becoming harder to find. As decades pass, we will reveal error coins off center strikes, double dies, clipped planchets, and mysterious anomalies that escaped the mint and now command attention from serious collectors and investors. And this is where the story becomes personal, because somewhere right now, a 1979 Jefferson nickel could be sitting in a jar, a drawer, or your pocket carrying a value far beyond 5 cents, waiting for someone who knows what to look for. This coin also marks a period just before major design changes and modern collecting trends, making it a key transitional piece in the Jefferson nickel series. And throughout this full history, we will connect the coin to the economic reality of 1979, rising prices, changing mint standards, and public trust in money itself, all of which left fingerprints on this small coin. And as the video unfolds hour by hour, we will guide you through grading standards from circulated to mint state. Explain how professionals judge luster contact marks and strike quality, and show you how collectors decide what is ordinary and what is exceptional. This is not just a history lesson. This is a masterclass for anyone who loves coins, wants to start collecting, or dreams of finding hidden value in everyday change. So lock in, stay focused, and let the Jefferson Nickel 1979 tell its full story, right here on Channel Name Coins, because sometimes the smallest coin carries the biggest secrets. Jefferson Nickel 1979. We have to understand the environment in which this coin was created, because coins do not exist alone. They are born from politics, economics, technology, and human decisions. And in 1979, America was under pressure. Inflation was eating away at purchasing power. Interest rates were climbing, families were feeling uncertainty, and the U.S. Mint was tasked with producing massive amounts of coinage to keep commerce moving smoothly. The Jefferson nickel had already been in circulation since 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel, and by 1979, its design was familiar, trusted, and almost invisible to the public. Yet invisibility is often where the greatest stories hide. The obverse still carried Felix Schlag's portrait of Thomas Jefferson, refined over time with sharper details and a more modern relief, while the reverse displayed Monticello Jefferson's Virginia home, a symbol of intellect, architecture, and independence. And in 1979, the minting process itself was evolving. High-speed presses were used to strike billions of coins, and this led to a critical issue. Weak strikes, especially on the steps of Monticello, and this single detail would later become one of the most important value drivers for collectors, because a 1979 Jefferson nickel with full steps is no longer common. It is scarce, and scarcity changes everything. The Philadelphia Mint struck the majority of these coins. Without a mint mark producing hundreds of millions to meet demand, Denver followed closely marked with a D and often showing slightly stronger strikes, yet still plagued by bag marks and wear, while San Francisco focused on proof coinage, specially made for collectors using polished dies and planchets, resulting in mirror-like fields and frosted devices. But even proof coins are not immune to scratches, haze, or poor storage, and pristine examples today are far less common than original mintages suggest. As decades passed, most 1979 nickels entered circulation and lived hard lives, bouncing through vending machines, wallets, cash registers, and counting machines, wearing down Jefferson's cheek, flattening Monticello's steps, and erasing fine details. And this is why condition matters so deeply. A circulated coin tells one story, a mint state coin tells another, and a high-grade full steps example tells a story of survival against odds. And when we talk about grading, we are talking about professional standards used by PCGS and NGC, where a difference of one grade point can mean a difference of hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Luster becomes critical, the way light dances across the surface. Originality matters whether the coin has been cleaned, damaged, or altered. Strike sharpness matters, especially in Jefferson's hair and Monticello's columns. And then there are errors, the accidental masterpieces of the mint off-center strikes, where the design drifts away from the center-clipped planchets, missing metal due to cutting errors, double dies showing doubling in letters and numbers, lamination errors where metal peels away, and even wrong planchet strikes, where a nickel is struck on a planchet intended for another coin. Each error tells a story of a moment when the minting process failed, and collectors love these moments because they are unique, tangible, and impossible to replicate. And in 1979, error detection was not as advanced as today, meaning more mistakes slipped into circulation, unnoticed only to be discovered years later by sharp-eyed collectors. This is why roll hunting, searching through old bank rolls, remains popular, because hidden treasures still exist. And beyond the physical coin, we must talk about legacy. The Jefferson nickel 1979 stands as a quiet witness to the end of an era before the design would later change in 2004 and 2005 with the Westward Journey series, and then return to Monticello, with modifications making the 1979 issue part of the classic uninterrupted Monticello reverse run, and collectors building date and mint mark sets cannot skip it. Investors studying long-term trends recognize that today's common coins in top condition become tomorrow's key coins, because attrition never stops. Coins are lost, damaged, melted, or locked away in collections, and population reports already show how few high-grade examples truly exist, and this is where education becomes power. Knowing how to identify mint marks, evaluate steps, recognize original surfaces, and avoid cleaned coins separates successful collectors from disappointed buyers. And as this story continues hour after hour, we will explore auction records market cycles, how demand rises during economic uncertainty, how nostalgia drives collecting, and how a simple 5-cent coin can become a symbol of patience, knowledge, and opportunity. And the Jefferson nickel 1979 reminds us that history does not always shout. Sometimes it whispers through everyday objects waiting for someone to listen. And right now, you are listening here on Channel Name Coins, where ordinary change becomes extraordinary history and where the next great discovery could be in your hands right now, where we unlock the secrets of American coins and reveal the hidden stories behind every mint mark and every detail. Today, we are diving deep into the fascinating world of the Jefferson nickel, specifically the 1982 Jefferson nickel, a coin that represents a unique moment in United States coinage history and offers collectors and enthusiasts a window into the economic, cultural, and artistic developments of the early 1980s. The Jefferson nickel first appeared in 1938, designed by Felix Schlag, replacing the Buffalo nickel and featuring the portrait of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, whose vision and ideas continue to shape the nation over 2 centuries later. The 1982 Jefferson nickel was struck during a period when the United States was experiencing significant economic changes, including shifts in metal prices and evolving minting technologies. The coin is composed primarily of a copper nickel alloy and features Jefferson on the obverse with his profile facing left, capturing his dignified and thoughtful expression. The reverse depicts Monticello, his historic Virginia home, an architectural symbol of Jefferson's legacy and American ingenuity. The 1982 release is particularly interesting because it falls in the period shortly before the United States Mint made slight adjustments to coin compositions and before the introduction of significant modern minting errors that collectors actively seek. Each coin was struck at either the Philadelphia or Denver Mint with distinct mint marks, P for Philadelphia and D for Denver, and these small letters often become crucial for collectors assessing rarity and value. The year 1982 also coincided with a heightened interest in coin collecting in America, fueled by a growing awareness of rare coins and the realization that everyday circulating coins could carry hidden numismatic value. For the Jefferson nickel 1982, there are subtle variations in die strikes and the quality of the minting process that make certain specimens more desirable for collectors, including full steps on Monticello sharpness of Jefferson's profile and the overall luster of the coin, which reflects the quality of the metal and striking process. Beyond its physical characteristics, the Jefferson nickel 1982 also represents an era in American culture. The early 1980s were marked by a resurgence of patriotism, economic challenges, and technological progress, and these coins quietly circulated in pockets, wallets, and cash registers as silent witnesses to everyday life, influencing generations who held them and sometimes saved them as keepsakes. The coin can also serve as a lens to examine the mint's production techniques at the time, including planche preparation, die polishing, and press. Pressure adjustments, which all contribute to the coin's final appearance, and the minute differences that serious collectors study under magnification. Many collectors look for high-grade, uncirculated examples in mint-state condition to preserve every detail of the design, while others search for circulated coins that tell a story through their wear marks, discolorations, and patina, reflecting decades of hands pockets and cash drawers. Every scratch or toning pattern becomes a narrative of the coin's journey and adds to the historical value of the 1982 Jefferson nickel. From an investment perspective, the 1982 Jefferson nickel offers an accessible entry point for new collectors and a fascinating case study for seasoned numismatists examining trends in mintage's values and collector interest. It is also an excellent opportunity to explore the broader Jefferson nickel series spanning decades. Understanding how designs evolved, small changes in mint marks, metal composition, and die variations tell a story of innovation, artistry, and continuity in American coinage. Our deep dive today will examine every aspect of this remarkable coin, from its historical context and design origins to its minting process, market value, and tips for spotting the rarest examples. We will explore stories of collectors who have discovered extraordinary 1982 nickels in circulation, and trace the coin's journey from the mint to everyday commerce to specialized coin collections across the country. By the end of this video, you will have a complete understanding of the 1982 Jefferson nickel, from the microscopic details of its die and metallic composition to the historical and cultural significance it embodies and the potential investment opportunities it presents. So grab your magnifying glass and join us as we uncover the complete story. Behind the Jefferson nickel 1982, a coin that is much more than pocket change. It is a tangible piece of history, art, and American heritage that continues to capture the imagination of collectors around the world. Now let us take a closer look at the obverse of the 1982 Jefferson nickel, where Felix Schlag's design captures the thoughtful and intellectual character of Thomas Jefferson, a leader whose ideas shaped the foundation of the United States. The profile is finely detailed, showing Jefferson's high forehead, pronounced cheekbones, and distinctive hairstyle, which were revolutionary for coin designs of the time. Schlag carefully balanced. Realism with artistic interpretation in every curve of Jefferson's face was meant to convey wisdom, dignity, and strength. This attention to detail makes each nickel not only a medium of exchange, but also a miniature work of art that reflects the skill and precision of the mint engravers. The lettering along the obverse edge, including the words Liberty in bold capital letters and the date 1982, are struck with consistency and clarity. In most high-quality coins, however, subtle variations can occur due to die wear pressure differences and slight misalignments. Collectors often spend hours examining these small differences with magnifying tools, identifying what is known as die varieties, which can significantly affect a coin's desirability and value. Moving to the reverse, the Monticello building is rendered with remarkable precision, showcasing the columns, windows, and roofline as an architectural representation of Jefferson's vision and genius. The reverse design also includes the inscriptions E pluribus unum and the word cent, framed neatly below Monticello, giving the coin a balanced and harmonious appearance. Numismatists note that in 1982, some coins display sharper steps in the columns and roof, which is an indicator of a well-struck coin, while others may appear slightly flattened due to die wear or circulation impact. These subtle differences are critical for collectors aiming to acquire coins in the best possible condition and are often used to assign numerical grades following the professional grading scale, which ranges from poor to mint state. The 1982 Jefferson nickel also has historical significance in terms of mintage numbers. The Philadelphia Mint produced millions of these coins, while the Denver Mint had slightly lower production figures, making certain mint mark combinations more sought after by collectors. In addition to standard circulation strikes, there were also proof sets created for collectors which feature mirror-like surfaces and frosted devices, offering an even higher level of detail and aesthetic appeal. Proof coins from this year are particularly prized because they were struck with special care and represent a limited production compared to the mass circulation issues. Beyond the technical and aesthetic details, the Jefferson Nickel 1982 also tells a story about the American economy during the early 1980s. The United States was experiencing fluctuations in metal prices, especially nickel, which is used in coin alloys. And these economic pressures influenced the mint's decisions regarding coin production techniques and metal composition changes. Over the years, the copper-nickel alloy of the Jefferson nickel has proven to be durable, allowing coins from 1982 to survive in excellent condition in pockets, cash registers, and coin collections across the country. Another fascinating aspect of the 1982 nickel is the presence of minor errors and anomalies that can occur during the minting process. These can include off-center strikes, doubled, dies, weak strikes, or planché imperfections. While these errors are usually unintentional, they have become highly collectible and sometimes fetch premium prices at auctions. Collectors are always on the lookout for such varieties as they represent unique moments in minting history and offer the thrill of discovering a coin that is one of a kind. In addition to technical details, collectors are drawn to the Jefferson Nickel 1982 because of its role in popular culture and everyday life. These coins were used in vending machines, bus fares, small purchases,